All right. So, Boku no Hero Academia or My Hero Academy. Is it Boku no Hero Academia in
Japanese version?
Japanese?
Boku no Hero Academia, yeah.
Okay. I did get that right. I like it a lot. You like it a lot.
Yeah.
But why is, I think, question a lot of people have, because to be honest, when you first think of the premise, it's kind of it's not a strange premise, because it's very, if X-Men took over the world and like X-Men was a normal thing, that kind of is the premise of the world.
Just about. But in my retrospect of what I'm experienced with it, I find it really interesting, the approach on how the protagonist actually came. Because, if you all know already, he's quirkless. Izuku's quirkless, he has no powers, he will never have powers. However, during his training, he had to go through 10 months of training just to be able to get it inside of him. And with that, with a lot of people, the audience would be like, oh, sweet, he's going to get these powers. But the reality is, you don't just get powers. The reality is, you have to actually work for it and try your hardest to achieve it. And to me, that was compelling, because most of the superhero tropes nowadays, they just, like that. They just get their powers, they know what to do with it, and it's very tiring sometimes.
It's very, they get their powers and they may have to learn how to use them a little bit, but like by the end of, say, if it's a superhero movie, by the end of the movie, they have their powers down. The difference here is that Izuku has to work to maintain, and if you know anything about the series, or if you don't, Izuku's power that he gets is all for one. This isn't exactly a spoiler because it happens within the
One for
all. Oh, I always get those two confused. One for all for one.
Yeah, there you go. That's one way you can think of it too.
Okay. But he gets his power within the first 2 chapters or something. I can't remember what it is. I think it's within the first chapter, I want to say.
Yeah, but they just really show 2 of them?
The first 2 chapters.
All right. But they just show you on all the rigorous things he has to do, and they even show his muscles.
Yep.
Like, for a kid that age to have that amount of muscle just to be able to hold the power, oh my gosh.
And something I like about this one specifically is, while it is a Shonen Jump manga, so it does have a lot of the shonen tropes of protagonist beats their head into the problem until it's solved.
Just about, yeah.
It has to change its protagonist a little bit, since Izuku was born quirkless. He has to learn to use these powers, but he also has a sense of intelligence coming into this, because he's studied quirks, he's studied superheroes, he is a fan beyond belief of All Might, he knows his stuff.
Yeah, which is an extra perk that many people overlook.
Which doesn't happen a lot in Shonen Jump.
Exactly.
If we think about the previous 3, I like to call them the previous 3 trio.
Oh, yeah.
Which is Bleach, One Piece, and Naruto.
The top 3, honestly, yeah.
Yes. The antagonists for those 3, not the brightest candles in the bunch. Really not.
Yeah.
And, I mean, if you go back a generation, you go to something like Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon. Both of those, the main protagonists, weren't really that bright.
But, of course, it was on the brink of becoming something more.
It was on the brink of becoming something more. I think now we're seeing more of a trend of smarter protagonists. Somewhat. And I know Fairy Tail kind of was kind of in that, just underneath those three, and it had a very dim protagonist as well.
Yeah, but coming back to this, though, for some reason, for me, it was such a refresher over the superhero trope. That was what got me, is the superhero trope.
Yep.
You see it in American media all the time. You see it in media through lunch boxes. You see it with kids. It's almost draining anymore.
Yeah. Because it's everywhere.
Yeah. Even if you look in a lot of the animes and mangas of Japan, there's a lot of superheroes. Not in the Western sense, but there's a lot of superheroes.
There's a lot of powered beings doing things for...
A lot of overpowered beings,
A lot of overpowered beings, too. And for this, I actually find it funny that you bring up Western superheroes. Actually, the creator of Boku no Hero took a lot of inspiration from Western superheroes. Did you know that? Specifically Spider-Man.
Yeah, I knew about Spider-Man, and you could definitely see the effects of like a comic book artistry, specifically in All Might. If you look at his design, his attire, his features, it's like screaming Western.
Yes. It's screaming. I think Izuku said it somewhere, as he commented on the fact that All Might's costume is considered a golden age costume. Which is a throwback to the golden age of comics.
Yeah, which it perfectly reflects that.
But this is a new age of superheroes, and I think they've taken I agree with you, I think they've taken a very refreshing look at the different superhero types and tropes. They've come up with things that I honestly haven't, like, I've seen the style of, but I haven't seen that particular style of superhero and actually seen that superhero work in a way that interests me quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like, oh gosh. I don't know if we want to get too much into spoiler territory again, but Lemillion, is that his name?
Lemillion is, that's...
Yes. His quirk and his use of his quirk is very, very interesting, because he took a quirk that very much could have been considered almost a curse.
Just about.
Something that he wanted to be a hero, but his quirk was not catered towards that lifestyle.
Yeah.
And he transformed it into something that he could use, into being battle ready, which
again,
is
refreshing.
Refreshing. Very refreshing. As well as Izuku's rise through his power is that he starts out where his body can't handle it. Anytime he uses his power to 100%, it breaks him.
Yeah.
He breaks bones consistently throughout the first, half of the series?
So far, yeah.
So far. Just recently, they've gotten into the later part where he starts to garner up a little bit more strength.
And on top of that, he's actually learning his own art form of One for All. Mm-hmm. Which, again, refreshing.
And so with Izuku, he has to learn to use that power sparingly, and I think this goes back to the smart protagonist. Mm-hmm. He's to learn when to use it, because if he uses it wrong, he's going to be SOL.
Yeah.
As seen by his entrance exam. He jumps up and punches a robot, and then he's
falling to his death, basically.
He's falling to his death. Thanks to the lovely female protagonist he saved.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you can necessarily call her the female protagonist. There's a couple kind of female protagonists, but she's the primary, I think.
She is... I want to say she is really good, but if you really think about it, she's still kind of two-dimensional until she gets her own arc.
Yeah.
Because she's the supportive, let's do it kind of character, which is necessary,
Yeah.
but if she stays like that any longer, she may have troubles trying to get out of that. There is evidence she is changing that outlook, like gearing up her body to...
As seen by the festival.
Yes.
Where she had to come up with a way to, I guess, once again, use a power that she has that is not exactly considered superhero material and transform it into something battle ready.
And that, with her power, which, if you folks don't know already, is she's able to control gravity to a point. If she touches something, she basically gives it weightlessness. They give it zero gravity to where it just floats everywhere.
Yep.
And when she puts her fingertips together in a, I guess, almost high five formation, she's able to release the zero gravity effect, and everything just returns to normal. And it was just really cool on how she set up a trap for Bakugo, which is a monster on a whole different level.
It shows a level of intelligence that I like.
Yeah.
Now, Katsuki.
Where do we start with him? Oh, I know exactly how we should start. With a fun fact about him.
Go for it.
The original character design and personality of Katsuki Bakugo, Grenade Guy I want to call him, is really hilarious. He was supposed to be the nerdy intellectual that knew every darndest little thing. But the creator thought, no, that's kind of stupid. So he wanted to make a character that would piss people off. And so Katsuki Bakugo was the result.
Yeah.
A little S on a shingle, I guess you would say.
He's a little firecracker.
Yeah. Even though he does once in a while show his actual intellectual side, like, don't get me wrong, he may be crazy powerful with his grenade ability, but he is very, very situational awareness.
Yep.
Like, out the window. Kind of wish he'd touch on that a little bit more, though.
Yeah, I'd wish he'd touch into his intelligence a little bit more. I found something interesting with one of the more recent arcs in here is that normally with a shonen manga, you get a protagonist and what's considered generally as a rival. You got your Goku and Vegeta, you've got your Ichigo and what's the Quincy's name?
Ishida. Yeah, Ishida. Sorry.
And then you've got like, I don't know one for One Piece. I think it's kind of more Zoro and Luffy a little bit.
Kind of,
but not really. But you've got your general protagonist, and then you've got the rival. Naruto and Sasuke.
Yeah.
That was the last one I was going to say.
That's an easy
But
one, though.
that's an easy one. In this, they started out with the very, like, protagonist and rival sort of outlook on it. And with one of the more recent arcs where Bakugo fights Izuku, you show kind of a depth of the character that gives you kind of sympathy for him in his goal to be the best.
Yeah, because he was raised to be very prideful about his work. He was always put up on top of a pedestal, and that is a pretty downright big fall for him.
And it shows both a rivalry, but also almost as a second protagonist, kind of a side protagonist. Now they're not. I don't think they're going to really expand upon him as a protagonist itself, but they kind of drifted away from that straight up rivalry. Now that doesn't mean they're going to not be rivals, but he's going to stray more towards the path of, maybe I want to say a later game, Vegeta, where in later series of Dragon Ball Z, the Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball whatever's, Vegeta kind of gets into his own character and becomes his own protagonist. He has his own depth. He has his own family. Some could argue that he's a better family man than Goku.
Well, for one thing, he doesn't die as often.
This is true. This is very true.
Literally, if we want to have a death toll of each of the characters in Dragon Ball, I would say Goku would most likely take first because he keeps dying for no reason. Literally, he keeps falling over dead, comes back dead, comes back dead. Mm-hmm. It's just an endless cycle. And then Vegeta over here, he's just like, not as bad.
Yeah, I think he's died like what? Twice?
I won't put a thumbnail on it, but yeah.
And Goku just dies so much. Okay. Well, taking that aside, those are kind of the main three, aren't they? Izuku, Katsuki, and how do you pronounce her name?
Ochako?
Ochako.
I could also be mispronouncing it.
Oh-cha. Cool. But
if we want,
CO is not a sound in
I got
Japanese.
Okay, for all those that's actually gotten to the point where they actually have their superhero names, we're just going to keep calling her Uravity, all right?
Uravity?
That's what her hero name is, Uravity. It's cute.
It is cute. I'm trying to see if I can't find a picture with her original art design so I can see.
Yeah, but while you're looking for that, you're also missing, because Bakugo's not part of the trio. The trio...
I know where you're going with this.
Ida. And everyone wants, and I know this for a fact, everyone wants to see that arc. Because you can already see his almost close to vengeance, but he was able to get out of that mode, thankfully, because he seems like the character that would go complete vengeful on all villains, no matter what the situation is.
Yeah.
Which, thankfully, Deku was able to get him out of that.
Yes.
Deku is Izuku, by the way. I forgot to mention that.
He learned his lesson, so to speak.
Yeah, and I know for a fact everyone's waiting for his arc to become a better Ida. He needs to take the name of his family just so he can continue that, what do you want to call it, the family line?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because his older brother is a well-known, or was? He is
well-known, but ever since the incident between Ida's brother and Stain, Ida's brother lost feeling in his legs. He can no longer carry the name because he feels he can't carry it with honor.
With proper weight.
Proper weight, yes. That's a better way of saying it.
Let's see.
Which is understandable. It's very human of Ida to be, I want to take this name, but I don't feel worthy of it.
Yes.
It's very... It's
humane.
Humane, yes.
Yeah.
I was about to say humility, but that's not the right one either.
No.
But it's really... I really am waiting for that arc, because it's coming. You know it's coming, as well as with all these other characters. Like,
can we talk about Kirishima Ijiro? I don't know if you recognize the name.
Oh, Red Riot.
Red Riot. Yes. Oh, his most recent arc, where he once again took a power which you could consider not exactly battle ready, and transformed it into something that he could use in combat.
Yeah.
And
although it's a little bit more simplistic than the others, but he still makes it work.
But that's the type of guy he is. He's very simplistic and straightforward. But I love his arc of him being someone with a quirk that he couldn't really, like, he could lightly harden his skin at first, but then through training and learning to upgrade his own quirk, he's slowly become more and more, I guess, his quirk has slowly evolved to the point where he can protect against massive amounts of damage.
Yeah.
As seen by the most recent arc. That he can take massive amounts of damage and hold it with his own willpower.
Yeah, although I kind of question how much he can take, because remember, Urabi was able to take a lot of hits from Bakugo.
This is true. This is very true.
But his quirk is downright defensive as all the dickens, I swear.
He's very defensive, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't have an offense.
Yeah.
But he's the one that takes the hits and keeps on moving. He charges you like a bull. Almost. And, like, he hardens his hands and fists to make for almost club-like and spear-like weapons. So he does have some of that.
Yeah. I really do like his character. Like, let's go ahead and generalize it. Almost every single character in Hero Academia is likable in one way or another. Even the villains. They either make a good point or their personality is just fine.
Have some sort of a sense of humanity to them, that you understand where they're coming from. Even if it's a psychopath, you understand the fact that they are a psychopath.
Yeah, they're human. That is what they are. They're not like some creature from alien space that we don't understand, or a two-dimensional character. What's the word I would like to use? I'm terrible at this, forgive me. But the way they use the villains in this is also commendable. Although, I'm very surprised they don't delve into the villains more.
That's on purpose.
I figured it was.
The author had a interview where he was asked about the villains, and he purposefully said, he straight up said that I do not explore the villain's backstory because that is the point. They're supposed to be mysterious. You're supposed to question their motives, what they want, what they truly want, what their aim is. Like, you could only see that they're focused on finding something, and I think focused on finding one thing, when in fact their attention is focused elsewhere.
Yeah.
Their ideals are focused elsewhere.
Although he did, this is kind of a spoiler, but just for the name. He did technically break that just a little bit, because he did give some backstory on Kai Chisaki. Again, forgive our pronunciations.
Yep.
But Chisaki actually was given a sort of backstory about his past, but he never delved into it any more than that so far, which is good.
Yeah.
But he kind of went back on that word for just his character, because he kind of needs a little bit more to get a more motivation what he actually
I don't
wants.
think giving a backstory is really the problem with the villains. It's giving a forward story, showing what they're thinking, where they're heading. Like, a lot of...
Oh, getting in their head.
Yes, getting in their head.
Okay,
a lot of more recent and even previous manga have had the problem with they show you where the villain is going. And even if the hero has no freaking clue, they show you where the hero is going. And so therefore you're like, oh man, what's going to happen? Are they going to get there in time? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, but
with this, they keep it kind of close to the chest, very much. You kind of you see those little snippets of, oh man, these villains are here. What's going to happen? But you don't know why they're there fully.
True, because you get only pictures and some words with Chisaki, And even then, there's a lot of mysterious things that that people want to know about.
You don't understand why him and the League of Shadows or the League of Villains have...
League of Villains.
League of Villains. League of Shadows, I feel like that's a DC thing.
Yeah, pretty
League
sure.
of Assassins is DC.
League of Shadows. It's somewhere.
It's something.
It's copyrighted somewhere. We'll just stop right there.
Too many leagues of things. Justice League, League of Assassins.
Although if League of Shadows isn't taken, don't tell anybody. We might actually want to use that ourselves.
Copyright stamp. No, but you don't understand why the two have joined up. What's in it for either of them or the people in the actual League of Villains. You don't understand their motives. Mm-hmm. One of them is completely crazy and off the wall, doesn't care.
Yeah.
She will cut you, and by George, she will love every second of it.
But for some reason, she's adorable in some way.
That's because this artist can take anything and make it adorable.
I know, but
his art is battle scenes are beautiful, and his is just overall atmosphere.
Yeah, and don't forget the studio.
Very strong.
Don't forget the studio that's actually animating it. They're actually doing a superb job too. Season 1, you actually noticed this too. In season 1, there was a lot of motions, a lot of good stuff, but there was a good decent amount of time you could see like stale animation, like they're trying to save time and money.
Yeah.
However, this studio, if we could figure out what that is real quick, we'll give you all the brownie points you want. But the studio that is animating Hero Academia actually improved the animation. Like, instead of the few times you see the stale animations, they actually gave them more motion and more personality, which is kind of a rare thing, honestly. Don't take my word for it, but most of the time, they just keep the same animation, maybe improving bits and pieces right there. But the studio actually...
Bones Studio.
Bones, you have every right to take my money. I want to buy that stuff. I want to buy all of it. I ain't gonna lie.
They've done both of the Full Metal Alchemists. Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Mm-hmm. They did Soul Eater, which the ending of Soul Eater was... bad, but the actual anime itself, up until the end, where they diverted from... Oh man, I didn't know they did that one. But they did Darker Than Black.
Oh, dang.
Have you seen Darker Than Black?
I have. That's for another episode.
I've only seen a couple episodes, but the battle scenes in that one are fantastic.
Yeah.
I didn't know they did this one.
Oh.
Red High School Host Club.
Okay. Anyway, Bone Studio, you are doing a wonderful job with Hero Academia and all the other shows like Alchemist, Orihana, High School Club, all those. You do fabulous job.
Yeah.
Props to you.
Your animation is quite strong, to be honest.
But bringing it back to Hero Academia before we delve into other things. And go off topic.
Go ahead.
With the villains aside, though, let's get in a little bit of... Do we want to start favorite characters, or do we want to go with worst characters that we personally have
issues with
and or tweak a little bit? Because I know there's one that I don't think a lot of people like, but I could be wrong. Mm-hmm. But did you want to go ahead and go first? We'll go ahead and do what our favorite characters or what we want.
Favorite characters first?
Yeah. Specifically of Class A.
Ooh, specifically of Class A?
Yes, because
that's
kind of
where we're primarily at.
Pretty much.
Well, first you got to go with the basic. I've praised Izuku quite a bit
Mm-hmm.
So
He's the main character, though.
yeah, being the main protagonist, he is phenomenal. That being said, I think, let's see, let me go through the list and see if I'm missing anybody before I throw my...
Yeah, we'll go into the other classmates and other characters, but specifically Class A, which is everyone should know who they are, or you can just look it up real quick. Because there hasn't been any transfer students, so that's actually a first. Because I will go ahead and say one of my favorite characters, personality-wise, would be Froki.
How to make frogs cute.
I'm not gonna lie, yes, she's cute, but looking into her actual backstory, you can understand a lot of the way she talks. She has to be blunt because she had siblings, younger ones.
Yeah.
She's very caring because she had to take care of the family because mother and father had to go on business, so she was stuck taking care of her siblings. She's a very caring and intellectual individual that's able to use all of her abilities to the fullest. And she does absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it wasn't for a couple things here and there, like she can be kind of blunt to, she doesn't acknowledge a lot of the feelings that other people have, and she realizes this, which is amazing, of course. It could be done a little bit more to where she has a little bit more emotion, but I understand where the creator is going for her character in specific.
Yeah.
She has to keep a level-headed but a caring nature to support everyone around her, which, love it.
Yeah. She is a fantastic, almost, I guess, secondary female protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
She's very loving and caring and very friendly, but also, as you said, very blunt.
Blunt and a little distant.
Yeah, a little distant, a little out of the way, but I think that's just part of just her family background and what her quirk is.
Yeah, which quirk is very well used, of course.
Class 1A has kind of just had to grow up. It's so hard to pick my favorite.
Personality-wise, which one would be your favorite?
To me, oh my goodness, probably either Ochako or Uravity, or oh goodness, probably right now Ijiro. Kirishima. Red Ryan.
Okay.
Just because of his drive, I guess.
His drive is pretty straightforward.
But I still like my smart protagonist, but they haven't gone very deep into a lot of the backgrounds of any of the characters yet, because it's only been out for only 130?
It came out in 16, so...
154 chapters.
Yeah.
Which is fairly good, especially since it's not going to be wrapped up for a while.
Yeah. Not gonna lie, I'm surprised you didn't choose the Tododorki. Shoto
Shoto? Tododorki?
We'll just call him Shoto.
When I think about it, I really like his character, but they haven't really touched on some things that I really like to see, which is an emotional side that I know that he has, but they haven't revealed it yet.
Yeah.
They haven't brought it to the forefront of the series yet.
Yeah, which is kind of forgivable because they do go into the backstory, of course.
They go back into the backstory, which I honestly... That was a fantastic backstory for him.
Yeah, it was the classic tragic backstory, but with a twist. Mm-hmm. The second most powerful or most popular hero, Endeavor. His father put him through so much rigorous exercise to basically place Endeavor himself into the future bloodline of his family. Which it's really crappy of a father.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care who you are. If you're going to be treating your kids like that, we're going to have a little talk. We'll have a little talk because that's not how you raise a kid. That's how you raise like a soldier or something. No. Mm-hmm. But I am actually happy though. Even though he doesn't show emotion, the creator does show some progress because he does go see his mother. We don't see the transgressions between the two.
You still do know, though, that there is an emotional depth there.
Yeah.
I just like for it to be explored a little bit. And I think I just like Ochako and Ichiro right now because of the most recent arc. Mm-hmm. Just what they've dealt with. And Ochako, not really. And she's not really prominent in this arc.
Yeah, but
Ichiro especially has me like, yes, yes.
All right, so with that aside, though, which character of Class A do you want to see more of?
Okay.
Of an actual arc. Because I know I said I want to see more Ida, but there's more characters on here that I'd rather see an actual arc and growth from.
Yeah. For me, I'd actually like to see a arc for... Suyu.
Suyu?
I see you.
Which
Froppy.
One? Oh, Froppy?
Yes.
Well, they did technically go in some backstory with her.
A little bit, but they haven't had an arc where she has gone through problems. She's very much the person in the background that it is. You've seen her develop, but you haven't seen her struggle with that. You haven't seen her... She's very much... hasn't gone through very much pressure.
Yeah, it's true. Although she did, I don't remember it in the manga, but in anime, they did give her a mission arc where she actually went on a mission. Some struggle, but in the end, she was praised for what she did, which she did do good. Few things here and there, but kind of forgivable. But again, Bone Studio did a good job.
Yep.
Animating it, getting everything straight. It's still the character and everything.
Yep.
Extra characters too. I question them, but moving on.
Filler episodes or filler arcs aren't really my favorite.
No, especially I'm not going to be pointing fingers, but if you know most of Shonen, you know fillers when you see it. But fillers...
The big three. Sorry, something in my throat there. I apologize.
Yeah.
For her, though, I've not seen her get angry. I've not seen her put energy into what she does. She keeps a very cool head, which is nice.
Yeah.
But I have not seen her struggle to keep that cool head. Work to keep that cool personality going.
Yeah, especially during the final exam, which I think they showed in the anime too. So we could talk about it. She was teamed up with Tokoyami, the bird head, I want to call him. Which they both really worked well together in the final exam. The bird head, his issue was he could only go straight forward. He can only go do what he can do with his shadow. He can't expand upon. So with Froppy there, she's able to motivate him and help take on, in different ways, the enemy.
Yep.
Which was very good team up. One of the better team ups I've seen on this.
Yeah.
At least
on this list.
On this list, yeah.
Yes. They worked fantastic together. I remember that arc. I loved their battle specifically. It was just... it was hard fought. So you didn't get that whole kind of oh, this will be like easy, or oh, this is gonna really like, how are they gonna pull this out? It was very much a, they're gonna battle for all they're worth, and it's gonna be a fun one to see.
More or less, Izuku and Bakugo against All Might in their final exam.
Yeah.
Which wasn't
great,
but
I enjoyed the character development in it.
Yeah, because they had to force themselves to work together, so growth did happen.
You want to talk about forcing themselves to work together? Todoroki and Momo, however you pronounce her last name, those two against Eraserhead was a fantastic use of ingenuity, use of smarts against an opponent that is more of an underground fighter, so he holds a lot of...
He's a dirty fighter.
He's a dirty fighter. He uses a lot of his mental abilities with his quirk to outsmart and outmaneuver all his opponents. He takes on opponents
left, right, backwards, forward, underneath, up, above.
Yes, he can take on... And even the anime recognizes this when... the League of Villains invades.
Yeah.
And he basically puts himself up as a wall. And you're like, his power is only to erase one ability, one quirk, when he's looking at you.
And most of the time it only goes for the emitter types.
Yes. And the ones that are have actual beast characteristics don't get effective as much.
Pretty much, yeah.
But still, he runs circles around every single one. I should have turned my phone off.
Hey, what you doing with your phone? What you doing with your phone?
Turning it on silent. That's what I'm doing.
But that actually goes into what character I want to see more developed besides Ida is Momo. Because after the tournament situation, you can just immediately see her confidence shot through the basement. And I actually wanted to go in there and give her a hug and say, it's okay. It'll be okay. It will be okay. Yeah. She looked so devastated. I was genuinely sad.
Yes.
And with her teaming up with Shoto there, I kind of wanted to smack him and give her a shot, which thankfully...
That played out.
That played out well. Really great.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with Eraserhead technically scolding Shoto, saying, you should have listened to your partner. Yeah, boy.
Just get it through your thick skull. Gib slap. Come on.
Yeah. And even though Momo technically did slip up towards the end, it worked out perfectly in their favor, and they won their final exam, which... Amazing!
Yes.
Can't say it enough. Amazing!
They did very well, and there was a lot of character development there. One of the battles there that was not a whole lot of character development was the one against the principal.
Okay. Let's face it. That team up was kind of a bad team up.
It was bad from the beginning, but what little you got to see of the fight was hilarious.
Yeah, I will say Yuga and Mina teaming up together is a very bad team up against a very above all else intellectual of an animal.
Yeah.
Holy mackerel. I'm pretty sure that fight was just to relieve tensions and make it really funny, though. Which is needed.
It really was.
But let's make sure that Yuga and Mina don't ever make teams together like that again unless they can make it work.
Yes. Okay, so on to characters you dislike.
Oh, gosh. It has to be Class A still. Which one is yours?
Grapehead.
Oh, that's mine too. I know there has to be for some
it's
reason.
Japanese culture, and they put it in there, and it's like, no, stop it. I'm sure there's some joke with everything there, but it doesn't transfer well to Western audiences. It's just...
remember, in Japanese culture, sexualization is a lot more appropriate than violence. Unfortunately, that's why we get grapefruit. He has very little potential in our opinion.
He's one-dimensional.
He's one-dimensional, yes. He has very little promise of actually growing as a character.
He has one thing on his mind.
Well, two things if you want to... if you want to count the...
If you want to count the separate anatomy, maybe. No. He's got one thing and one thing on his mind, and it's... it absolutely...
is the explicit details
annoys
of
the crap out of me.
Feminine features.
Oh.
That, I will say, probably one of the weakest character arcs on this in Class A is his specifically. He has his moments to be funny, but a lot of time it falls flat.
It falls super flat to Western audiences. Western audiences, from what I've seen, just... Some people have gotten behind him, but of all the art that I've ever seen on the Boku no Hero Academy, Reddit, DeviantArt, anything, anywhere.
Which, dangerous going on DeviantArt.
You're right. You're very right, but you find some badass stuff on there.
Unfortunately.
Like, I find my background to my phone on there, which is... this one. It's one with Okucho and...
Uravity and Deku.
Yes.
That's actually really good.
And if you look...
I really wish we can show the picture on podcast, but this is for ears, not eyes.
Yes, this is for ears, not eyes.
But if you guys do want to check up some stuff on all that, probably go to Pinterest or Tumblr or something like that. But be careful on Tumblr. You can find some really weird stuff on there.
Oh, yeah.
But besides that, we both, if not a good portion of people, hate grapefruit. Which brings on to the next thing. What could we do to actually change the outlook on him? I know the first thing is get rid of his pervertedness. If not, just tone it down. It can still be his...
Of all things, tone it down. Remove the one dimension. I understand it's hard to keep track of 20 characters in one class. I can understand that. So some are going to be weaker than others. Mm-hmm. But you put grapefruit in friggin'...
You have to question yourself, how did he even make it?
Yeah, because he's there. He has prominent lines sometimes. Like, he's very much... You see him quite a bit more than a lot of the other low-stage characters.
Like,
under the cuff characters.
Like, one of the very few characters that we ever see is Sugar Boy, whose literal power is the more sugar he eats... the more stronger he gets.
Yes.
Which would be amazing for a lot of us Westerners, but unfortunately, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Another one would be Koji Koda. Probably the most quietest...
Oh, I love his character anytime he has a scene.
But the worst part is, I'm pretty sure he has the least screen time out of every single character on here. And that's saying a lot.
I don't know. Who the heck is Hantasero? I can't remember.
Hantasero?
Yeah, the dude right in the middle right there.
I've seen him more than I've seen.
Oh, is that Tape Guy?
That's...
Okay, that's Tape Guy.
Yeah,
okay.
that's Tape Guy.
Okay, I didn't... He's a very forgettable face, but...
I love his face.
It's very just...
And I actually do like his personality. Just... Not really too much more to go from where he is right now until more develops.
Well, and even the fan favorite, which is Mina Ashido, has had less scenes and less lines.
She is definitely starting to look like a background character.
Yeah. But she is a fan freaking favorite.
Yeah. I freaking love
Everybody
her.
Loves her.
She is the preppy athletic girl. She's supposed to be there. If anything.
Yeah. She's the favorite background character. I don't know. The fandom here, oftentimes they do give a lot of love. Most manga fandoms give a lot of love to the background characters. But in this one specifically, I've seen huge amounts of fandom art, fandom discussions on background characters.
Yeah,
It's something that you don't see a lot.
and starting to actually grow in a lot of cartoons and animes and stuff. Like, it's starting to grow.
Where they give the background characters a lot more depth.
Yeah.
And even though they're keeping them one-dimensional, they give you just enough to give you kind of that idea that they're more than just a one-dimensional character. Except for Grapehead.
Like
I hate your stupid face.
He has more screen time than half the class, which is really...
Which pisses me off, because there's so many people I'd like to see more of.
Yeah.
Not him and his stupid lines. You can stop now. Thank you. Please.
I'm sorry, everyone. He has turned to becoming a grump. He's going in grunts and groans.
I can't even with his face right now.
Well, we'll see.
Look at his stupid ass face. Look at it.
I know. I see it. I don't want to look at it. Don't. No, don't.
I can't right now.
The face. Oh, why is he looking at butts?
Oh, his emotions, no, he's the comedic character, I get it, but why?
No, just all right.
No.
Let's keep moving before anything starts going down. Yeah, breathe.
Deep breaths. Deep breaths. We've gone down that rabbit hole.
You can dream about
breaths.
you could dream about punching him in the gut later.
Oh boy. Oh, that's just
But we are getting close to the end time, though.
Yeah.
So right now, let's kind of wind down to kind of
Conclude. Hello. Can I speak today? No, I cannot.
For some reason, he went British there. Oh, gosh.
No! Got you!
No!
Woo!
The only way this could be worse is if I start watching a Russian accent. I kid you not, audience. I will go Russian for a whole day after watching a movie that has a Russian accent.
Oh
My gosh.
Okay.
Let's wrap up. There we go.
So we've talked about class 1A.
Which
their
is most prominent, yes.
interests. We haven't talked much about teachers, but that can be an eventual one. Do you want to wrap up by talking about the arc, or I guess the plot overall, specifically when it adheres to All Might? Because there is a significant amount of backstory to that idea. You understand both the Golden Age and his characterization as being, he is All Might. He is considered the hero of heroes. He is number one. He is.
He has thighs to destroy lives.
Oh. I crush men's skulls between thighs like
No.
Come on.
Okay, but regarding his character or his just... Okay, stop looking at the graphs. Yeah, we know he's overpowered.
6. They have a scale of 1 to 5 on your power, speed, technique, intelligence, and cooperativeness. And from 1 to 5, All Might is all 6s across the board.
Yeah.
Which I don't think he deserves a 6 in intelligence. That should at least be dropped to a 5.
Nah, we'll bypass it. But regarding All Might, I actually am very happy. He is an overpowered character, much like Superman. You can't kill Superman.
Yep.
You can't kill All Might, technically. But the way they did All Might was perfect. Because they took a superhero, made him relatable, and made him more human,
Oh, yeah.
which I really would like to see more of in a lot of the Western hero tropes.
For me, I find this very much interesting, is that the idea of after the golden age of heroes. See, you don't get to see it, but All Might had his own battle to
true.
being the best. He started out quirkless,
Yeah.
and the same as Deku, and he was given one for all, or all for one. I don't know.
One for all.
One for all. I can see it right here. I should have just read. He was given that power, and he grew up, and you know this. They give hints of it in his backstory. But it comes down to the final battle, and he defeats the enemy, but he's wounded in the process, and life moves on. Mm-hmm. And that would have been a great story in the golden age of manga, just his battle through that.
Yeah.
He could have very much been his own story, his own arc, his own Naruto and this series right here is almost as if it's a Boruto.
Just about, yeah.
But it's done better than Boruto.
Okay, we're not going there.
We're not going there.
We're not going to go there.
But the idea that I personally like is that he's come from a point where he was at the top of his game, and now he is fallen because he's become old. He's
degrading.
Yes, he's degrading because of his injuries. The only reason is when he uses his power, he flexes that power in order to become All Might once again. But once he releases, he can only hold it for so long,
and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
He becomes almost decrepit and sad.
Yeah, which all in itself, the design for both normal and muscled All Might is actually really interesting, to the fact that the big muscle shows the prime of the golden age.
Yeah.
The skeletal version shows what falls, as you said. And in a lot of ways, that is actually true to what a lot of the comic book companies are doing now. Mm-hmm. We're seeing the rise of popularity, but we haven't reached the pitfall.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna say I can predict the future, but there will be that pitfall. No matter what it doesn't matter if Disney or Marvel or even DC Marvel combined together, it will fall.
Life is very much an arc. I think I've told you about the hero's journey.
Yeah, which
will be an entirely another podcast, because that is something I will go on and on about.
Yeah, great writing tool.
Great writing tool. But in the hero's journey, you come to the point of life and death. The idea of...
whether it be rhetorical or literal.
Yes, whether it be figurative, literal, or just something happens to where some form of two opposites, life and death, chaos and neutrality, one of these two comes into question. And you face that end. All Might has faced that end, and he's on the end.
He's on his final chapter.
Yes. And he's bringing it back full circle to become the mentor for the next hero's journey.
Which, let's all face it, he's not the greatest mentor.
He's not the greatest mentor.
Great trainer, horrible mentor.
Yes. Yes, very much. He's learning, though.
He's learning. Which makes him even more human.
Yes.
Which I'm kind of sad that they don't do something like this for Superman and stuff. But we'll save that for another time, because we are actually getting close to being done.
One last thing. Two last things. One, All Might very much is is starting to learn to become a good mentor. And you've seen a bit of that story arc in there. So there's kind of a twofold story arc of the more recent hero's journey and the previous hero's journey as it's cycling again and again through to its end. The second thing I wanted to comment on before we stop here is his eyes.
Very important.
Something we have not touched on and something I wanted to touch on.
And some people have touched on, but we're going to just reiterate,
Yes.
just in case you haven't heard it yet.
Something that's very prominent in All Might's eyes is that as he's drawn in the manga and in the anime is that his facial structures are very much done in negative, almost drawn in negative. And specifically his eyes. But something that comes through in any fight scene or in any scene where he's old and decrepit is his eyes that still, even when they're drawn in negative, have the pupils as the pupil and the eye itself, the iris, as still burning bright through that negative. And I like what the author did with that, is the idea that even though he is coming through to his end and he's fallen in sort of a negative space in that he is coming to the end of his own journey, is that he still holds that bright spark, that will to keep going, the will to be peace.
Which is very prominent, the way you put it, due to his fight between Nomu and All Might.
Yes.
Which, during that fight, if you are too fan crazed about the animation or the fight itself, go back to it and look. And you'll see during the final fight, you will see that his pupils are glowing bright.
And it's made a very prominent point in both the anime and manga that his eyes, whenever he does a fast movement, normally sometimes they will do that eye tracking thing where they do kind of a blur effect.
Which is cool.
Which is cool, but normally it's kind of the whole face is blurred, which it is a little bit here. But with this, it follows the trope of a lot of powered up beings in that his eyes are glowing. So it's two glowing streams that move with him when he's moving fast, and it tracks through his eyes almost as if his eyes themselves are emitting an energy, a deep fire that comes within him, a deep drive that he has held, a sort of will of power.
Which every half, if not every character in this entire story has. Just, you have to look for it.
You have to look for it. You have to look real deep sometimes. Real deep.
Yeah.
But I digress. We are not going down that path with him. I think just that's important, is the idea that even though he is falling flat, his eyes are still burning bright, and it gives him that, both the idea of the human spirit coming through and beating challenges, and it makes him more relatable. He's a Superman that became more relatable.
And mortal.
Yeah, and mortal. But he still has that drive, that idea that he is going to save as many and as much as he possibly can.
And that's very important.
Oh yeah, that is very important.
So if none of our listeners has ever seen or even read this manga or anime, you need to check it out. It's something to look for. Even if you're not into this, it's something to look into because it's something that a lot of pop culture is kind of craving.
Yep.
It's the new trope that's not a trope. It's required to see a new face of heroes. But we all digress. we got to end it, unfortunately.
Yes.
So, as we are taking off, our next bit will be about League of Legends.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are going to enjoy this.
Oh, this is going to be a fun conversation.
Yeah, well, either
The salt
way.
may get real. The salt may get real.
And that's why I'm bringing the pepper. Anyway.
All right, let's go ahead and end it here.
Yeah, but, as always, have a lovely day.
Bye.